Hey guys, so this is pretty much going to be part two of trying to fix the hardtop. Haven't touched it in a few months, but it's sunny out. It's supposed to be sunny for the next 3 days. So I'm going to try to get this thing sanded down to the point where I could primer it, try to break down those ridges, try to clean this stuff up. If you look, I just took the edge off here, and then I'm going to try to clean all this up. I'm going to be using my orbital sander here, and I'm going to be using a pretty high sand count, so like 80. Try to break it down quick. If it starts to eat too much, then I'll go lower than that. Sorry about the plane flying over. I would record everything that's happening, but you might not see what I'm doing because I'm going to be working on this side, and I'm going to have to set up the camera on that side. Alright, so what I've done so far is I worked around the edge, and you can see there's like a line there. What I did is I went until it was smooth. It wasn't smooth earlier. Worked my way around the edge. You can see where these shiny spots are. That's where I didn't sand in it yet. I'm gonna have to smooth that out. But basically what I'm doing is I'm going around everywhere, trying to feather it so it's smooth. And over here, do the same thing. Feather it so it's smooth. Come up here, you can see these dots, circles a lot more. Those are smooth now. Even these, where you can see how much I had to feather in there just to make it smooth. That one right there, still, I could still feel a little bit of an edge, so I'll have to go in there. What I wanted to show you though is what it looks like when I start sanding the black and how these bubbles just start to appear. You can see them popping up there just from me going back and forth. Each one of those little white dots pop up, and you can see that in the black. I know it's not showing up in camera, but as soon as I start to sand, you can start to see more of these dots pop up. Like, trying to see the bubble in there. Watch it. You can see it pop up. So that's what I'm dealing with, trying to get all of that off. I'm going to keep going, keep sanding until everything's smooth. Alright, so here's where I'm at now. See, all those bubbles started to pop out. It is smooth, however, I can't feel a ridge. This was with 80, so broke it down a lot. I'm going to go in and get some of these harder to reach areas just using the pad itself and just sanding it by hand. I'm trying to make sure I don't get anything on the glass. My intentions would be to possibly take the glass out before I paint it, or I might get lazy and not take the glass out. I'm probably going to end up painting this thing twice. I'm going to do primer and then black, and then at some point in time I might resand it down and do a real paint job on it, whether that means taking to a place or not. I know I should do it right the first time, but I'm tired of it looking the way it does, and I don't have the cash to make that happen yet, so just doing what I can for now. Alright, so I did a few more passes with the 80 grit and the orbital sander. It's starting to come down a little more. I'm going to switch now to 100 grit. Unfortunately, I left my sandpaper with my Miata, and my Miata is not with me right now. It's at my wife's work, so I'm going to be using this sander instead, and I'm going to be using the 100. Change out that paper so that's not on there, but I'm going to try to break it down even further, get it to smooth out, and do a few passes with the 100. Then once I'm done with a few passes with the 100, I'll probably move on to a lot finer grit, like a 240. Sorry for the dogs. Alright, here's where I'm at. I've done about 3 or 4 different passes with 100 grit, and I was really worried about scratching the window and the little chrome pads back there, so I decided to tape them up. And while I was at it, I figured I would tape up any of the gaskets that might be accidentally painted when I do decide to paint this. Um, there are a couple spots you can see that still need to be filled. Now I got a filler primer that might actually fill in some of these imperfections. Right here though, it's still a little, I could catch my nail on it, where here I'm good. So I'm going to sand that a little bit more, probably go over it one more time with the 100 grit, and then go over it one more time with maybe 240 or something around there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the high fill primer, and next time I show you this will either be right after I'm done sanding or right before right after I paint. So right after I'm done sanding or right after I paint the primer. Alright guys, here's where I'm at. So last night I finished the sanding, and then I went ahead and put one really good coat of primer over the top of everything. So this is what it's looking like. Something that I noticed is there are still some of those bubbles that I didn't get to. See right there, it's got a pretty hard edge to it, and then you can kind of just see everywhere they kind of popped up. The good thing is I know where those are, whereas they looked smooth and felt smooth. Now I know they aren't all that smooth. So my intentions for these is I'm going to sand them down again as smooth as I can. For the thicker ones, I got a different plan. But you can look, you could see the one right here. Get that focused. There we go. See that one right there. For the most part, everything else though looks pretty good. A few of these little issues here. The edge though looks a lot better than it was. Got some right there. Not sure why those are different colors right there. I don't know if it's just not completely dried yet. But another spot right there. But I'm actually able to see everything that's wrong with it, even though it's like this gray color, primer color. So the plan is to sand it down one more time, smooth it out, and then I picked up some of this right here. It's a glazing spot putty. So essentially it's like a filler, a body filler, but from my understanding it doesn't have as much hardener in it, so it's a lot more liquidy, I guess, but not really. It's made to fill any pinholes, any small cracks, anything that's light damage, so nothing really big. So plan is sand this down. Probably gonna use either like a 180, maybe a 100. Sand it down, get it smooth, clean it up, and then use the filler on any of the little pinholes. Let all that set up, sand down the filler, the glazing putty filler, and then go over it one more time with primer. Alright, here's what I did. I went in and I sanded down smooth all the areas that I noticed there was issues. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come through with the spot putty and go ahead and fill in those spots. I'm going to try to show you guys how I plan on doing this. So this is it, Bondo glazing putty. It's a one step, you don't have to add anything to it. So I'm pretty much just going to put it on there. Go ahead and close it up. It's got a really strong smell. And then I'm going to take my spatula or whatever it's called. I'm just going to start pulling it across. And the hope is that it fills every one of those holes that I'm having issues with. And then this is sandable, so I'm just going to come in and sand it after the fact, hopefully smooth everything out. Alright, so I put the glazing putty everywhere I had low spots. I'm gonna have to definitely sand it down. It's a little cold out, and I think because of that, it didn't take well, especially in this larger area. I noticed when I did the smaller spots that it wasn't that big of an issue, but it was really easy to fill in the spots that I had issues with. Now it's just a matter of letting it dry. It says it takes 20 to 30 minutes to be sandable, but that's like in 60 or 70 degree temperature. It's colder than that here. It's like 50-ish degrees right now. So I'm gonna give it like maybe an hour to set up, and then I'm gonna come in and sand it smooth and see where that leaves me. Alright guys, so here it is so far. I sanded it down. I used 220, I used my orbital sander. I went in there and smoothed everything out. Everything is pretty much smooth to the touch. Everything's looking a lot better. The only thing is this area here. There's still a couple places for some reason the stuff didn't take. So that right there, I need to sand down a little more, smooth it out. Then I'm probably going to go over the whole area one more time with the putty to try to smooth it out. But if you look, you could see all these little spots here are where the putty filled in those areas. It's just certain areas that didn't. So I'm going to sand it. I'm going to sand it smooth a little bit more, and then I'm going to go ahead and re-putty, let that dry. Alright guys, the sun's coming out, so hopefully it will help this cure better. I went and sanded down all the holes or low spots. As I did that, I started noticing a couple more, so I sanded it even more, and I got to the point where I'm pretty sure they're all gone now. At least hopefully they are. And then I redid a thin coat of the putty glaze. I'm hoping the sun will help that cure better, get it to dry quicker. Everything else I sanded completely down with 220 to make it smooth. And then once this dries out, I'm going to sand that down to make it smooth. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another coat of filler primer, see where that puts me, see what it looks like, and go from there. I'm really hoping that it all works out. All those bubbles that popped up that I'm trying to get rid of, I feel like they're just never going away. Hopefully they're away this time. Maybe that's what happened with the last guy. Somehow some sort of reaction happened with the paint that he had. It started to bubble. Kind of just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So hopefully that doesn't happen for me. Once again, I'm gonna wait for that to dry, sand it down, smooth it out, one more coat of primer, see what it looks like. And then I'm going to go ahead and do either a gloss black or a satin black. Gloss is what I'd prefer, but gloss is going to show a lot more imperfections. So I think it's really going to depend on how well that primer looks after I'm done. Worst case, if it really looks like crap, I used to have a smooth line hardtop, and it was wrapped in a vinyl fabric, not the vinyl that you're wrapping every car in like the 3M vinyl, but a vinyl fabric like what you would see on boats. And I like the way it looked, and I think that'd be a really easy way to hide all these imperfections. I'm hoping I don't have to do that, but I might have to in the end. Alright, so I'm really starting to get annoyed. I smoothed this down, smooth to touch. I went to go sand down one more time the whole top to smooth it out before I primered, and all of these spots started to come up. They're smooth here, they're not so smooth right here. My concern is that the ones that are smooth I'll probably just primer over. The ones that aren't smooth, I'm going to sand down. But I'm worried that I'm just going to keep throwing primer on here to find more bubbles. The only way I feel like I could get rid of the bubbles is to go all the way down to the fiberglass, which I really don't want to do. You can kind of see how I did that there. I don't know what to do. I'm going to try sanding it one more time and then painting it with the high fill primer one more time and seeing where that takes me. If not, I might end up having to just wrap it or do satin or something. Alright, here we are. So this is the one coat of primer after everything. Things are actually looking a little promising. The only thing is, if you see the discoloration, that's rough, and then the lighter part is smooth, and then something happened right here. I'm not sure what it is. It looks like specks of something. So I'm definitely going to have to sand it smooth before I paint it, and then go ahead and do one more coat of primer, and then I think that I might be safe to actually paint it a gloss black. So we will see what happens. Alright, so it's the next day again. I went and did the primer last night, and then I sanded it smooth with 400. It's definitely a lot smoother, and the area where I put the glazing putty is a lot better. I really don't see many, if at all, divots, but what I am seeing, you might not see it in the camera, right there where the shade changes, where it goes from dark to light. If you see, you can see little bubbles, or they're actually not bubbles, they're the divots from the bubbles that popped up over there. But they feel smooth for the most part. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I have left of that glazing putty and very, very lightly fill in as much of that as I can one more time, and then do one more coat of filler primer, and at that point I think I'll be good. So that's the next step. Wait for it to warm up, dry this thing off from just condensation, and then filler putty, light coat of filler putty over all those little spots, and then one more coat of filler primer. Alright, so I used the glazing putty pretty much everywhere on the top, trying to fill up as much as I could. Sanded everything down, feathered what I could. You can see all those dots of red. That's what I was talking about that was showing through. So it looks like I got all of them, hopefully. I really think that one more coat of filler primer will help with any other issues. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. I went around the edges too. So I just wiped this down, cleaned it off, and then I let it dry for a few minutes, and then I'm going to put one coat of filler primer, probably sand that down a little bit, and then I'm going to do a regular coat of primer, and then paint it gloss black. Next video might be after primer, or might be after gloss black. Alright guys, update. So did another coat of primer. I sanded that down smooth, and then I did a light coat of black, and then I just did this second coat of black. This is the gloss black. You can see the shine, right? I'm sure you're seeing it in the camera though. It looks like there's a lot of either orange peel or issues going on. What it is everywhere there's sand marks, you can still see it all. So I'm probably gonna have to sand this, wet sand it, do a few coats over and over again. This is only one can so far of black, and I was able to do 2 coats with it. I might be able to do one more coat, but I bought 3 cans, so if I could get through all 3 cans, get a really thick coat of the black on there, then that should give me enough room as far as paint thickness to be able to wet sand it. Alright, so I let the paint dry overnight, and I was really hoping that I was going to come out to something a little better than what I did. I knew there was some sand marks, and I was thinking about wet sanding to get rid of all those sand marks, but honestly I came out to this. The bubbles came back. So I'm going to have to sand down again these bubbles and figure out what's going on over here where I almost went down to the fiberglass. They pretty much went away, but everywhere else they came back. So I got bubbles everywhere in my paint. I was gonna wet sand with 400, but I don't think that's gonna happen now because I need to get rid of all of these bubbles. Basically, I could pick right through the bubble all the way to the bottom. So don't know what's going on. This paint still feels really soft too, so I don't think I could sand it yet, which sucks, which means I'm just gonna have to sit here and wait a little bit. I'm really wondering if I should really continue to waste my time on trying to get this thing painted, or if I should just go to plan B, which is wrapping it. Okay, so I'm pretty much just going to end the video and call this 30 or so minute video part 2 of trying to fix my hardtop. Part 1 was the initial sanding. Part 2 was the last 20 plus minutes of your life watching this video. Sorry that it didn't get anywhere, but all those bubbles are pretty much screwing everything up. I think I'm going to have to sand down the whole entire hardtop to the fiberglass itself. There's a sandblasting place in town that's near me. I'm going to see if possibly I could, sorry about that, see if I could possibly get them to maybe sandblast it down to the fiberglass. I'm just really worried that I'm going to ruin the fiberglass by sandblasting it, or even sanding it to get to that point, because I really don't want to start sanding on the fiberglass. But I think it's the only way I'm really going to be able to get rid of the bubbles. Then I got to figure out if I'm going to paint it myself or get it painted at that point. Don't really want to keep wasting time or wasting money, but at the same time I need the hardtop, or I want the hardtop. So sorry this got you guys nowhere. If anything, it's taught you that if you got bubbles in your hardtop, sand down all the way to the fiberglass till all the bubbles are completely gone. Part 3 of the video will be whatever I end up doing. So stay tuned, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and thank you.